Joining me right now is former Labour MP and former Government Minister as well, Shaun Woodward. Thank you so much for joining us, Shaun. Appreciate your time. No doubt at all. Absolutely superb victories for the Labour Party in both of those by-elections. Let's face it, neither Tamworth nor Mid Bedfordshire, in a normal round of things, would even be on the target list for the Labour Party. How significant do you think those vote results are?
Look, this is a really interesting discussion, and my own feeling here is that something very significant happened yesterday, and I think for me the discussion had very much been as to whether or not this coming election would be a 1992 type election where somehow there were shy Tories out there, they might come back, and that actually somehow or other Rishi Sunak might have just been able to pull it off. I think that result yesterday tells me that we are on course for something that looks like 1997. You know, there were three or four by-elections in the run-up to the 97 election where the swing was 20% towards Labour. We've just had three by-elections with the same kind of swing. There's a pattern emerging here. And, you know, I was standing as a Tory candidate in the 1997 election, and for 2 years I was a Tory. To me, this is beginning to smell more and more of 1995, 1990.
Except there is no excitement. You know, they do these, I mean, I hate these things, these word clouds, asking people in focus groups, you know, what words come to mind when you think of Keir Starmer? And most people say, I don't know. I just don't know. You know, who is he? What are his policies? And that's not how people felt about Tony Blair. People who liked Tony Blair loved him.
Look, I ran John Major's 1992 general election campaign as his director of communications. I left being editor of BBC TV's That's Life programme to go and run that campaign for him. Something that everybody said, forgive me, Julia, exactly what you're saying now, which is Mrs. Thatcher was this extraordinary figure, and here's John Major, this rather grey person, this rather dull person, this managerial person. Whether that was true or fair is another discussion. But there's no question that's what a lot of people felt. And forgive me, that's what you journalists were all saying.
I couldn't bear the man, still can't. Not going to lie. The only interesting thing he ever did was have an affair with Edwina Curry.
But I'm trying to answer your question here, because you see what you're doing here is saying he's not Tony Blair. John Major was not Margaret Thatcher. And forgive me, that's the point.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting point. Shaun, hold on a minute. Lord Hayward is desperate.
On about Waitrose woman. I'm Waitrose man, okay? I actually
Other supermarkets are available, everyone. Shaun, hold on 1 second. I know Lord Hayward wants to come in.
I just want to pick up on what Shaun said at the start in relation to the by-elections. And I made the point in my earlier comments. The turnouts are so different. There is no question that these are bad results for the Conservative Party. There's a very clear message, but people should not go too far in extrapolating the message. Because as Shaun was saying, you can sell somebody who's competent, and he did it with John Major in 1992.
OK. Shaun Woodward, let me come back to you. Do you think this tells us not just anything more about the result of the next general election? Do you think this also tells us when it's going to be? Because Rishi Sunak said in January, judge me on these 5 pledges. Nowhere near achieving any of those 5 at the current time. Some of them are still going in the wrong direction, like the NHS waiting list, the like. The possibility of elections, basically, it's next May or it's next October, realistically. Does this now mean 100% the election is going to be delayed as long as possible?
Well, no Prime Minister in his right mind or her right mind would call a general election knowing they were about to certainly lose it. And quite clearly right now, the Prime Minister would lose the election. So the idea that he's going to call one next May, come what may, is equally potty, really. I mean, I think what's much more likely is that if there were to be an election before at least a year from now, it could be in June, and it could be in June if the local election results in May were better than some people fear they might be.
But you'd have to have called it before the election results in May were known.
Yeah, excuse me, you just talked over me. What I was adding for your viewers was that was what Mrs. Thatcher used to do. She used to use the May local elections as the bellwether as to whether or not she pressed the button for June. So I would say that the Tories will be gearing themselves up to be able to have an election in June, But what will happen, just as we did with John Major, there will be a discussion in central office, March, April, and that will be, well, if we have an extraordinary set of results in May, we'll go in June. But I would be pretty certain that the date they're penciling in now is an October election before the clocks change.
Yep.
But there will be an election being most likely inked in probably for mid-October of next year. Right. So being called immediately after the Conservative Party conference.
Right.